Hello and welcome. This is video number 3 in a 13-part series about World War II. Uh, we're at the point in the war where France has just been defeated by Germany, and Germany is poised and ready to take over Great Britain, really the last major obstacle to domination of Europe for Germany. So please watch the following video and we'll see what happens. Now, this would end up being a series of events generally referred to as the Battle of Britain, where Germany made an attempt to take over Great Britain. Now, one of the advantages that Great Britain had is that it was an island country that presented a different challenge than anything that Germany had been up against, and that fact had served Great Britain well before. You might remember the defeat of the Spanish Armada. Part of that was just due to the nature of England and England being an island nation. Nevertheless, Hitler and Germany were extremely confident that they would have no trouble taking out Great Britain. It would just be a matter of time. And if you look at what had happened over the course of the previous year, they really had no reason to doubt that they would be able to knock out Great Britain quickly. Every fight that they had been involved with, they came out ahead and usually did so relatively quickly, relatively easily. So basically, to keep things super simple, in the beginning, what Germany did with Great Britain is they bombed military targets. They were hoping to eventually land people by sea and get them into England and ultimately taking over things. But in the beginning, they began to bomb military targets, soften them up, weaken the ability for Great Britain to resist and to defend itself. As time went by, they began to focus on bombing cities. One of the things that they recognized pretty quickly is that Great Britain didn't seem to be any closer to quitting as things got started. And one of the reasons why they focused on bombing cities was to break the will of Great Britain to continue fighting. If they could do damage to civilians, then that might, their hope at least, Germany's hope, was that would lead to those people calling on their leaders to surrender, to give up, to give in, to, I guess, have their lives spared. And so cities began to be bombed, in particular cities like London. And one of the things that this led to was people, of course, having to try to find shelter when this took place. And also you begin to see people who were able to leave cities like London, in some cases trying to do so. In many cases, getting kids out of the city was something that happened. But despite the hardships, the British people just kept on and kept after it. Now, there were some things that were working well for Great Britain, despite a lot of the bombing and the destruction that came with that. There were some technologies that were in play now that were proving to be very useful. One very new technology at this point was radar, which enabled the British military to know somewhat in advance when German planes were on their way. And what that enabled them to do was get people into shelter before the bombing happened. It also enabled them to get British planes up in the air to try to intercept incoming German planes. Something else that they had gained access to that proved to be helpful was a code-making machine called Enigma. And by having this code-making machine, they had a better time of figuring out advanced plans by the Germans, and so they could take some steps to be in better position to deal with what was coming. One of the things that this would lead to, with Great Britain beginning to deal with this more effectively and clearly not getting any closer to giving up, was switching to night bombing. So people had to spend their nights in bomb shelters, in subways, otherwise making life really, really miserable, because basically people would spend the days cleaning up and trying to take care of things that they needed to take care of, and then they would spend the nights getting bombed. And when that happened over and over again, day in, day out, night in, night out, the hope from Germany was that eventually it would break the will for the British people to fight on. Now, despite the efforts by Germany and the continuous bombing, Great Britain just wouldn't quit. They wouldn't give up. And eventually, to the point where Hitler ended up calling off the attacks on Great Britain. So after about a year, not quite a year, of trying to bomb Great Britain into submission, Hitler gave up. Now, part of why I'm wearing two ties today and noting the significance of the information of today, is by giving up on Great Britain, by leaving it hanging there, and then starting to focus on Eastern Europe and trying to achieve some objectives there, Hitler enabled Germany to get into a position that they surely didn't want to be in, and had proved problematic for them in World War One, and that was getting themselves into a two-front war. Now, even though Great Britain wasn't in any position to attack Germany at this point, they were still there, and the Soviet Union, though not yet an enemy, was soon to be an enemy of Germany on the other side. So, in hindsight, Hitler probably and Germany probably should have continued their attack on Great Britain, or at the very least, maybe cut their losses and avoided a future confrontation with the Soviet Union. At any rate, leaving Great Britain hanging there would prove to be very, very significant as we move through the process of World War II. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of how things went for Germany as they took on Great Britain, the first country that Germany had encountered so far in World War II that didn't give in and give up and be defeated quickly. Stick around for future videos to see how the rest of the war goes for Germany and for everybody else. Thanks for watching.